document control. And we may have more time when we're done with document control to talk about a couple other things before we go into our next session, which really we'll break, and then we'll have that last session, which is just like I said, we sit up here and we take requests and talk about what features that people are looking for and things like that. Yeah. Sounds like it's like you remember the old Dimasis conferences where you could sign up for a round table with Gary? That's what it is.
That was beneficial.
It was always one of the most
Sort of.
yeah, it was one of the most requested for sure of all the sessions we ever did was round table with Gary. All right, Acclamare document control. Really exciting stuff. All right, we're going to make it exciting. So basically, we're going to look at how Acclamare actually is able to do what it does relative to printing reports and forms. And then we're going to talk about how those report and forms integrate and tie in to Acclamare. We're going to talk about your delivery options. Obviously, that's really referring to printing, emailing, faxing. I'm going to emphasize in that, though, that if you print preview, there's no difference. The software knows no difference between a print preview, print, an email, a fax. It just knows the difference by how it's initiated. But it doesn't, I mean, it's just sending it out to some other device to do whatever it's going to do with it. So send it out to a previewer, send it out to a printer, send it here, send it there. So in reality, if you print preview stuff, I mean, the system's going to treat that just like I just did this. I just emailed it, I just faxed it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about how printers work, default printers as opposed to ones you can set up and designate by form. We'll look at this a little bit, and then we'll look at a shipping acknowledgement example to kind of bring it all together. That's basically, I know that would be an extension. I don't know how much shipping you do of product, but the shipping acknowledgement is really cool. It's built in. The functionality to do it is built into Acclamare, so that literally your customers, as soon as their order gets confirmed and the invoice is getting created through the confirmation process, it will automatically send an email to whoever you designate for that customer, a shipping acknowledgement showing you that you've shipped the goods. Here's your tracking number, and don't call us. You know, I mean, it's the concept, right? Your stuff's gone. You don't need to call.
Call often.
Call often if you want to order stuff.
What about a pro number?
What's that?
A pro number as opposed to a tracking number.
Whatever you enter.
Whatever you enter.
Yeah, the form's custom, so you can put whatever you want on it, whatever you enter. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the integration to the acronym up there, SSRS. Stands for SQL Server Reporting Services. Okay, it comes from Microsoft. It's their tool. It's their logic. Everything belongs to them. And so the point here that I'm trying to make is that Acclamare does nothing natively with reporting or report output. It doesn't. There's nothing in Acclamare. We don't write a line of code to create a report. All we do is call another program, Microsoft Reporting Services, and render what they're creating, what you do there, all that kind of stuff. All right, Acclamare touch points. There are areas where you set all of this up. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go back and forth a little bit here to show this information. All right, let's start right there. Okay, so let's get technical for a second. a good time to get technical, right after lunch, right?
Going, gone.
There's chocolate in front of everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna fire up the Acclamare installation wizard. This is for when you do your upgrades. I kind of talked about this as a new area of the application that helps you to stay current on new versions of the software. So this wizard is going out there. It's like I said, it's going to guide you through the process. Select next. I'm going to show you how reports are designated and tied in. So if I was actually going to do an update, I would select Express Upgrade and hit Next, and that's it. Done. It'll do the update, and it'll take 30 seconds. Okay? Not long. Not a half hour.
Used to be.
Oh, man. Yeah. Depends on what software you're working with, but yeah. In this world, countless times, I can't tell you how many, over the past 10 years, when I've had to do an update for somebody, and whatever version they're on, they're in the middle of their business day, say, hey, I want to update your system, and they'll go, how long is it going to take? And I'll say, it's going to take longer for you to tell everybody to get off the system and get them out, and then tell them to get back in than it's going to take me to do it. So that's literally the case. Everybody needs to sign out, wait 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. Everybody's out. You can go now. Call back in 2 minutes. I'm done. Everybody can get back in.
And they didn't
New
believe
version
you.
installed.
They didn't believe you if you were on Inspire. They knew how long it took.
Yeah, exactly. So this is very fast. I'm going to go to this option right here to modify an existing installation, just so that you can see in this screen what is the key element here. Again, this is document control. I'm going to make it as easy to understand as I can, but it is a technical topic. Document control is a technical topic. So right here is where you specify the location of where the Microsoft Reporting Services report server resides. This is really the key right there, is what is your designated report folder. Now, this is a demo box. This is not set up the way that you will set up or be set up by whoever installs you. So typically speaking, Acclamare comes with over 200 different reports and forms. Now, when you get initially installed, you should have a bunch of folders in your reporting services report manager right here. I do not. Typically what you will have is a folder. You had the one out there that said accounts payable. You'd have one called accounts receivable, I before E except after C, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough concept for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go general ledger. So this is how I can add folders. And that added, but it's a G, so it's down here in my list, right there. So what you're going to have is, well, Bobby, are you signed in?
Nope. I've actually moved things around a little bit.
I'll jump into master packaging. There's a couple that I could choose from, but this one's probably the quickest and easiest one to hop into. So I am remoting into a server in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, this is master packaging server. Let's just open their report manager. Okay, so here's their report manager home. You can see they've got a couple of initial folders that you see here. MPI is their company, their main company. And then now you can see their folders. So I've got, accounts payable, receivable, I've got these reports that you see. So all those 200 reports that I was looking at a second ago are actually residing now in their applicable area. Okay, so it's not just one big mess. And then you can apply security or permissions with your regular Windows users to the folders that are out there so that only certain people have access. You can have your own, as Bobby does right here. I know at Kimberly's place, Kimberly has her own folder too, where we put, things that are just primarily for her. So you can set up your own folders, but when you get installed, you should have a structure set up similar to what you're seeing here, instead of what you're seeing on my screen, which is right here. Okay, this is meant to just show here's a list of everything you can
That's
have
what
out
you
there.
come with, and then you take those and put them into folders.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. The ones, and the way that I typically do it on an install is I just do the ones that I get asked for. I don't dump out all 200 because then it's just more stuff for them to sift through. They
But
don't
as
know
we
what they
want it,
want.
we can go there
They
and
go,
get it.
oh, yeah. So then what ends up happening is I know what reports they run every day and what they like. So let's not clutter it up. I put out there what they want in the folders that it needs to go in. And then a month later they go, hey, I really also need this report, or I need this one.
So you
Then I'll go deploy those. Say, well, here you go now. Here you go now. So then, again, we're not putting a bunch of stuff out there that you're looking at going, well, what is that for? Or what does that do? Well, and you ever use it, and it's just in the way. Yeah.
But this is something that John or Mark could do right there for themselves. There's
Yeah,
nothing
they
to
can.
prevent them.
I mean, you can do it for yourself. Absolutely. I'm going to show you how that's done right here. But yeah, you can do it yourself. Certainly can move things around, like Bobby's saying. Bobby just said, I'm moving things around. He has done, because when this was done initially, there was only an MPI. This VMI reports, this warehouse reports, these are things that have been set up by Bobby and other things,
Yeah, and that was, well, my IT guy didn't understand the user account controls setup. So I was having an issue with certain people. I was linking into a folder, but they could back out and get everything. And so I finally figured out how to do it. I just need to move it all back. So
Okay.
I was setting up a certain folder that they
So it was security driven, the way
Yeah.
you were doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that and like knowledge.
I'm going to go ahead and click on Details View right here. So what I want you to see, that there's a couple of folders out there that are hidden. Okay? Just because they're not relevant to people looking at the report manager every day. Now, they're going to have certain types of security on it, but you can see this one is the main one that I'm referring to. This folder contains forms and reports. They're called RDLS files, which that's Microsoft's name for a reporter form. So you know how you have a .exe or .xls. These are .rdl, which stands for Report Definition Language. That's Microsoft's acronym for them. So if I click on that folder, all these reports and forms, these RDLs that are in here, are all tied into transactional areas within Acclamare. These are not reports or forms that someone would come to this interface and run. They would come to this back here, they'd go back here and they'd go into accounts receivable and they'd go in, yeah, I want to go ahead and run a customer list, or I want to run a terms list. Let's just run that one. That's obviously just going to run. So there's a terms list. I can run real quickly and see what terms are in the system. So these in these other folders that are not hidden, those are this is where you come to run them.
But you can grab those others and put in that folder if you choose, right?
You could move them
Yeah.
if you have the security permissions
Right.
to do it. But you don't want to, is my point, because in the wizard that we're looking at over here, you're telling it right in this folder, that's where I want Acclamare to look. Acclamare doesn't need to worry about any of that other stuff. That's stuff that you run when you want to on demand. But Acclamare needs to know where it's going in order to run reports and forms. Now, so you'd say, well, there's only one folder then? All of the Acclamare stuff has to be in just that folder? No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have to just be in that folder. Depends on the report or form. Certain reports absolutely have to be in that folder. And it could be named anything. Obviously, at Bobby's place, it's called Integrated RDLs. That's what it's called. That's the name of the folder. It's not called Acme Distribution. It's called Integrated RDLs. On my system, because I just dumped everything into into Acme Distribution, that's why it says that, because that's where I put everything. I mixed and matched in there. I put in, that terms list, it's not in an AR folder right now. It's right here. If I want to run it, I can go ahead and click on it, and I can run it. Now, this is what's in the demo system, not what's in, obviously master packaging system that I ran a second ago. It's a different list, different terms. Everything's in Acme Distribution. I've mixed on demand and integrated. But at your site, they should not be mixed. At your site, they're going to be in their own folder like this. And they're not going to be visible when people access the reporting area. They're not going to really see those, so that they're not tempted to go in there and go, wonder what this is. Not that they can really hurt anything.
But
They
they can
honestly
see
can't
commission.
hurt anything. But they'll get confused because when they go in here and they say, oh, there's the customer quote, I want to print a quote. They'll go in to select that particular option, and what they'll find is that it's looking for a variable. You see it right there. It says quote ID. That's not the quote number. But that's going to be what they'll think it is, because they have no idea. And if you didn't know any different, that's what you'd guess. Well, I guess the quote ID is probably the quote number. So they'll type that in all day long, and that will retrieve no results. They'll go, oh, this doesn't work. Quote ID is a unique identifier that's in the database, and Acclamare, that's why all of the reports that you're looking at in the integrated area here, almost all of these are going to be generated by a parameter that is a GUID ID. That's how they run. And nobody's going to have that
That's part of the code.
except Acclamare. Okay? So these are kind of system forms, system reports. Now, there are some exceptions in terms of where certain forms can reside. So within Acclamare, there's an area under File Maintenance, Printing, and Document Control. This screen where I went earlier to fix the report name that was wrong for the vendor check. This screen, as you can see, everything is, of course, pointed to Acme Distribution. This one's not. Okay, you can see it says Reports Pick Label. That's a new feature. Okay, it was recently introduced. And this system doesn't, number one, there's no pick label on this demo. But if I was to go into a sales order right now and go to sales order, and I'd go to file, print, and select pick label,
You won't know it.
what would it do? It'll do exactly what the check did when I tried to generate it. It'd throw a little error message and say, look at the details. And I look at them and it'd say, there's no such thing as reports pick label. can't find it.
But you could find that GUI somewhere associated, right?
So, well, the issue is that there's no
Link.
form. It's not pointed to the right folder, and the pick label form isn't even out there. So this would actually have to be pointed to Acme Distribution because there isn't another folder on this demo machine except for that one. It would have to look like this, and then there would have to be a form out there called pick label. Now, I could do that. Okay, so now if I go put a sales order in the system and I go file, print, pick label, it's going to render a packing slip for me. I happen to know that it's going to pass a sales order ID, which is the same thing that a pack slip's looking for. It's what a pick ticket's looking for. It's what an acknowledgement's looking for. It's what a pro forma invoice is looking for. It's already 4 documents you can generate from a sales order. They all provide the sales order ID. That's the same thing with a pick label. So I could make it work like this, but in reality it's going to show me a packing slip, not a pick label. So point here is this illustrates that you can create any form that you see in here, or in some cases a receipt or certain types of reports. You can name them whatever you want. You can put them wherever you want. If they're in this screen, they can reside wherever you say they reside out there in the report manager. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions about that? That clears mud, Kevin?
Not about that, but the other day you were saying you've added the ability to blind copies, so I see right here in the last
That is
column.
correct.
That's what you were talking about.
That's
the other
it.
day.
You found it. That's right. So if I have a particular document, I'll just cover it right now while we're in here. If you have a particular form, like let's go with the customer statement, probably invoices or statements primarily, maybe credits. If your default in here was to email your customers, okay, keep in mind this is the global document settings. This is for your company. Now, there are other areas in Acclamare where you can set up specific document settings for the warehouse that you're working with. If the warehouse has it's not going to have all these in it, but it's going to have applicable forms that make sense for a warehouse to be able to drive wherever they're supposed to go on their own. And then the next setting ultimately would be the user has their own document settings. Best example of this would probably be if you were in a building that was 2 stories and you had some salespeople upstairs and some salespeople downstairs. So, and you wanted a certain type of form, sales order acknowledgement. You wanted it to print to a certain printer virtually all the time. You could set it here, or you could go to that individual user's document settings and say, when this user prints an acknowledgement, I want it to go to the printer upstairs. When this user prints an acknowledgement, I want it to go to the printer downstairs. Okay, so that is available to you as well. What Kevin's referring to here, I select customer statement. I could then, when anything emails out, I guess I got on this because you could have customers, if I set this to email, it's going to assume everybody emails, unless in their customer record it says these guys fax or these guys print. So here's the concept behind delivery method at the global level from a maintenance standpoint. Pick the method that produces the least amount of maintenance or work for your business. So if more get their statements in the mail than get them via email or fax, then leave this as print and then create overrides for the customers in question that their statement gets emailed and these guys gets faxed, so customer by customer. If more get emailed than anything else, set the default to email, and then go to those other exceptions and do it. Otherwise, I mean, I have seen where people didn't know this about document control, and what ends up happening is it's set to print, and then they have 2,000 customers and 1,500 of them get statements, and they've created 1,500 records, one for each customer in the customer area, and specified that these get an email, these get an email, these get an email, 1,500 times, instead of the other way around.
Currently,
Okay.
when we add an email, because we have several hundred customers now that want email invoices, within our current system, I have to go in, our AR gal adds the email. I then have to go into document control, click on invoice, change it back to fax, even though it's going email, and select bill to, or else they will not go out.
Oh, wow.
When I add an email, I mean, that's the only workaround. that
So
we
it
do.
recognizes the EDM is now recognizing
I'll-
So
faxes and
when-
email?
It's because she selected that it goes by email within the customer, but every time an email is added, it reverts back, and I
Oh.
have to go into document control. So in this case, if it's set globally for email, no issue. If it's set, they don't want email, they want fax, does it revert back, or you just do it customer by customer?
Customer by customer.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'll show you that part of the setup here in just a second, and then I
Okay.
think it'll really make sense.
Okay, thank you.
Again, the blind copy, what I just wanted to emphasize here is that when I can type my own name and not work off of a laptop keyboard. Okay, so put in one email address. If I put in a semicolon there, I can string in another one.
So
This
every
is
time
global.
that gets.
Semicolon,
emailed,
string in another one.
And this is on the global.
This is global. So this is, and that blind carbon copy is intended solely for you to put a company address in there, so that if you want a copy coming into your own email or somebody's email out there, then you can just see, hey, customer says, I did not get that email. Well, I got it, or this address got it. I can see it when. So there's either a problem with your email address, or,
But from a management
Something focused about
standpoint,
that.
if you're not careful, this thing can bury you with work that's not gonna be any good to you.
yeah, you would. My personal take is we just added this. We're not huge fans of this, because there's other ways that you can do it depending on who your email provider is. One example that I know, there's several companies that use this, but one that I'm thinking of uses an emailing service like MailJet, and with MailJet, you not only can go back and see everything that got emailed, but you can see, it'll have more notes on it as to whether it got opened or not. So it'll show what bounced. So I mean, this is just going to put a copy in, the person's inbox or the email inbox that you designated, so that whatever you just saw that went, you have a listing of it. But MailJet or whatever is going to give you a lot more information about what happened to the email if you go with something like that. Bert.
If you already covered this, and I apologize, but the blank copy feature, you can combine that with a rule in Exchange that if you get an email that you email to yourself, it automatically goes to the same folder.
Cool. So did you catch that? If you have Microsoft Exchange. So if you're using Exchange and you use the blind copy feature, then he's saying you can set up a rule that basically will route that, how you want, and then, you get a nice audit trail or tracking from that standpoint. Just another option for you. Lots of options when it comes to emailing. Okay, back to talking about paths and controls in document control. So again, just to emphasize here, I'm back on Bobby or Master Packaging site here for a minute, and I can see on his site, these are all the embedded. These are all things that Acclamare will generate as a part of regular business. I'm in it, file, print, file. I'm in an order, print and acknowledgements coming out of here. You know, this is their core folder. And as you can see, if you look back here at document control where I'm at, document settings, I don't know how many lines there are in here. I don't have a footer in this. This is a maintenance area that doesn't get used much, but you know, there's probably around 35, I think, 35 lines in here. I mean, last I checked, I think it was about 30 or 31, and that's been a while, so we probably added 2 or 3. But there's 35 here, but if I go over and look at what's in Master Packaging's piece here, there's probably 50 or more in there. So there are certain things that you can't customize in terms of where they reside. You can customize every report or form, no exceptions, none. But like for instance, a receiving worksheet, a final bank withdrawal, preliminary bank withdrawal that we were looking at earlier, a physical count worksheet. These things are not going to be controlled in document settings because it's not needed. It's overkill. It's just going to use that path right here to go find that. It doesn't have to. We don't have to get that granular with it. We've only got granular like that where it's been requested and makes sense. So this is your setting for where things are pointed. So if I open this up at Master Packaging, what's this folder going to read if I'm at Master Packaging site and I open that up?
MPI.
Integrated RDLS, right? So if I go out there, it's going to show. Let's only take a second. Find it here. I think it's in here. Okay. So here's their. This is their wizard on their server. Next, let's just click on this modify so we can see our settings. And there's what a real life non-demo type of system looks like in terms of the address and in terms of the folder. Okay, so this is the address of where the report server lies, and then this is the address or the path of where all of the integrated forms and reports reside. So this is kind of a catch-all, and then ones that you want to put in other specific areas, you could do that. So, and the only practical real-life scenario where you'd ever really do that is, let's say that I want to just all the stuff that is just that's not in document settings, I'm going to put in this folder. And stuff that theoretically I'm really not going to modify whatsoever, or customize. I'm happy with the Acclamare stuff. I'll just throw it in here. And then maybe I have a folder that I call custom forms. And so that I would use the override for. So instead of going to integrated RDLS, it would say, you know, MPI / custom forms, and then have the name of the form. But again, you don't have to do that, and I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying that's the kind of flexibility that you have available to you. Okay, so let's bail out of here on Bobby's wizard. so that we don't do something stupid. Get busted doing it.
He gets fired, that's all.
I'm gonna quickly steal one of Bobby's users, and I'm just gonna open his document control real quick, because I don't believe that it's gonna take a full 4 or 5 minutes to go get a cup of coffee and log into his client. Okay, this is a live client out at Master Packaging, and yep, it's got the black skin layout, whatever you like. So here's the document control area, and now you can see, in fact, this will be good. Okay, so you just tell me as you look at this, what pops into your mind when you look at this? Anything in particular? I mean, a couple things do for me right off the bat. So,
I see there's messages over there in the,
well, yeah, they've got messages, which is nice, which is something I probably wouldn't cover. So you can put default messages in your emails, and there are available, what do you call those characters? What do you call them? Tags. Like a tag character that says insert customer name here, insert ordered by name here. You can put tags in those messages to kind of make them more personal.
It's on the acknowledgement, if you want to click into it.
Acknowledgement has it. Oh, yep. Thank you for your order, acknowledgement attached, and then that tag for user inserts the name of the master packaging user into the email automatically. So when
so
they
whomever
hit,
took the order or whatever.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
1016.
Yeah,
That's
real
what he
personal.
asked. That'd be us.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too good. Okay, but what I noticed right away is this. Okay, what this see this path?
Oh, it's a report,
That's the
not a-
default.
Yeah.
That's because we don't know. I mean, when we put in a new feature, a new form or report, we don't know. So it just goes in, gets installed. So what would happen if they went to generate a counter sale pick ticket? It'd fail. I mean, right now at their site, it would give them an error.
So that's why there's the one underneath it,
This has the same problem, right?
right?
Oh yeah, this one has the same problem. Okay?
I'm not seeing where you see the problem.
See, it
Right
doesn't
there.
say
It says
API, it
reports.
Oh,
says
okay,
reports.
okay, okay.
The path is
So
the
if
problem.
If you were to sort that on the path, they'd all pop
Yeah, I could
together.
sort it by path and then I'd see those.
All pop
That's
together.
exactly right. So if I sort it by path, I can see, these three at the bottom. And what does that tell you if you're putting your technical hat on?
We're not using them.
They never use them.
And they're not
They-
configured for use.
Yeah,
right?
they're not configured to use, and they could be. It'd only take a second to really configure it and get a form out there, but they don't use them. If they used them, and they get an error, and they call someone, me, Bobby, whoever, say, hey, I got an error when I tried to print this.
Good.
Okay? And, oh, it's not set up, need to set it up. So, but that's a good illustration of that. Something else that's a good illustration here is that you see that they've got default printers set up for some of their forms. So, particularly their check. So if I'm running a blank check or if I'm running a regular check, it's going to that particular printer. Yes, Jack?
I see they have a blind copy set up for a printed document. Will that email that document then to that? Also?
It would do it if they emailed it.
But it's not when it's set to print.
No,
So that's not doing anything
no,
by itself.
no, because it uses the same email.
It does
Eh.
work, because I've got customers default.
So for the ones that are defaulted to email.
Yeah, if
okay.
they, yeah, for email, absolutely.
Got it. Got it.
Yep, because it, like I said, it's a blank copy of the email. So an email has to go in order for the blank copy to be in both. Okay, so that's, Bobby, thanks for letting me take my liberties on your system here for a second. I'll bail out of there. Okay. back to our safe world here. So again, I just wanted you to get a real world kind of example, because this isn't a good example of that, because these will be broken out into their folders. And again, system forms and reports will reside in their own area. And the real reason why they reside in their own area, well, probably two reasons that they're in their own area. One, so nobody messes with them. Two, so they don't confuse people when they try to run them and don't have the variable that they need in order to execute the report. That's really what it boils down to. Let's put them where they don't get messed with and that they don't cause any confusion. So that's basically the concept behind that piece of the document control.
Now, the document control, within the catalog of the documents that you have in here, they're all usable as they come out of the box? Or do you have to customize them all?
No, none of them have to be, they're all usable out of the box. They're all usable out of the box.
Then if you want something different, you might customize.
But yeah, I'll give you a
Why
good
would you?
example. So like our pick ticket, our invoice, our quote is usable out of the box to me. But I'll print it at your site and you'll look at it and go, this isn't usable. Because
Where was it
it
from?
doesn't have,
What
well,
was
where's
Troy
this at? Where's that at? I want that on there. I don't like the order. I want the quantity over here. I don't want the price there. And so usable, I think, is a, it will run. It will run and produce an output that you'll look at and go, oh yeah, that's it. But whether it's actually usable to you and your business, is up to you in terms of how picky you are. Some businesses that we've worked with, they'll look at it and go, oh, that's great, I like it. Other businesses will do just what I said. What? That's no good.
What was Troy
We don't want it
thinking
like
of?
that, Yeah. Kimberly's at one of those sites. I mean, it's like, what? Well, that's no good.
We can always.
We got to have our logo on there.
We
We
can
got to
always
have this
convert
logo.
our
It's got to look
license.
like this.
Right.
We don't like all these
And then-
lines here, we want this.
Yeah, I don't like that. We don't want this on there. And then also, once you get that logo on there, oh, that logo's not acceptable. We have a newer one that we needed on those forms.
With this color
That's not
or
good.
that
We
color.
can't have that. Change that. So, yeah, that's the reality. That's
those skids for us?
that's
Yes.
that's a good reality right there. So the beauty of this world, though, is that any of it can be done. Whatever you need done can be done. So to take it to a more, let's go to say it's just not a picky scenario or situation. Let's say it's a scenario like some of our customers where, like Larry down at Bolts and Nuts. I mean, he's got a couple customers that he sells to or does work with, whether it be purchase order or whether it be on the customer side, that they require the form to look a certain way. They're a big company that they work with, whoever it is. I mean, Bolts and Nuts is small, but they work with some big company and they tell them, we want the invoice to look like this that you sent to us. End of story.
But now,
And-
can you have that just specifically for that one customer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you can adopt it globally if you're like, I don't want to have two different versions, or you can have your standard plus whatever theirs is and tie theirs to their document control, which is what we'll go look at now. Okay, so talking about document control, and I'm using the word document control and document settings a little bit interchangeably here. I think that we call the interface in our application, I think we call it document settings once you're actually in the interface, but it's document control off the menu. So the interface itself is document settings, as you can see on the top left here. Now this is the company-wide global one. Okay, so let's talk about the hierarchy for just a second. So what the system will look at first in every case is it's going to look at the customer or the vendor to start with. So let's go ahead and put in a customer. And we'll go to maintenance and we'll go to document settings. Okay, for this particular customer, well, let's go to one that Doug probably has stuff in there for. All right, document settings. Oh, didn't have one for this one either. Okay, so this is the customer's individual document settings. I can have individual settings by customer for any of these documents. So this customer could have their own packing slip, their own pick ticket, their own invoice, credit, acknowledgement, shipping acknowledgement, quote, return statement, AR document, or pick label. Okay? Any of those could be their own. Now, just because it's in here doesn't mean that that has to be a custom document, because you might just be defining how that document's delivered. Has nothing to do with being a custom form. That's the more applicable part of how this is set up. So this kind of goes back to what Donna, you were talking about a minute ago, but if I have a customer, let's say most of our customers still get their invoices printed and mailed. But we have those now that are moving to customer invoices by email. I would have my global setting at print with a default printer. But for this customer, I would come in and put in, okay, for the customer invoice, see where it says path not overridden? That means just use the global path. Okay, it's not a special change. The form isn't named differently. If it was, if they had their own form, I would have to override the path. That's where I do it. But in most cases, you're going to leave that as not overridden.
And how would you go into that box there to do it?
To change the path?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just go right there, okay.
That's exactly what you do. So, and there's a good illustration for you right there. Okay? Do not type in not overridden. Don't do that. Okay? Not overridden is actually null.
Right.
There's nothing in there. If you type in not overridden, then
It's gonna go look for
it's going to go look for a path of not overridden. All right, I've had that happen. All right, I've had that happen a couple times where they're like, can't figure out why this won't work, and then I'll see the error,
that they've used.
and it'll show me the path not overridden, and I'll be like, whoops, somebody fat fingered, panicked.
Put that in.
That's what happened. Is they got in here and they started. And they went, oh crap. And then they got back here and they went, okay, not over, because they didn't know they could just leave it empty and then it would go ahead, and that's how it interprets it. So the delivery method is the key here that we're messing with. So for this customer, I want to go ahead and email. You can see I have an option to email and print. Email and print means email them, print a copy for us because we really love paper. All right, so we love that paper, gonna stroke it, and whatever it is, we have some attachment. We got attachment to paper, and some companies do. So if you're like that, there's nothing wrong with that.
Kind of sounds like there is.
No offense intended. So
Generational thing.
yeah, it is.
Hey, be good.
really is. All right, so I mean, it's one of those deals. It is a total. It's absolutely generational. It's like when you go. I don't know, you guys. My dad's gonna be 85 in October. My mom's 81, and if I go over there for Sunday dinner, Fred, I might be having sour cream that's 3 years old, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. It's 3 years past the expiration date, but it's all good. It's a little runny, but it tastes okay. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that stuff in my life. So it's all good. It's all good.
Just eat what's in front of you, Troy.
It's all good. We have a good time. All right, so you can designate a default printer, which would make no sense if this delivery method was set to email.
Correct.
But if you set it to a printer to print, then you would obviously be able to set it to a printer default. If you leave it as the default, then it'll use the global setting. Okay, that's the plan there. Email addresses, you can put in a primary here and separate them so it goes to multiple multiple people if you want.
So the ones that want it mailed
Mhm.
to them,
Yes.
and currently our default setting is to fax, so we have 111 as the area code so that they will print out instead
Oh.
of. So in this case, we can just change that
Mhm.
to a print, and it will print those ones that want a snail mail copy.
That's right.
Okay.
That's it.
Yep.
So when you go into sales invoice printing and retrieve in, 200 invoices, all you do is hit the print. There's still just a print button in there, basically an execute button. Probably be, I know we have printer icon in there, but it's really just an execute button.
But it goes where you told it.
It goes however it's set up. If the system's set up to email with just a few printouts, then that's what it does.
Or
If
it
it's
goes to fax.
whatever, they start going, some print, email, fax, print, email, fax, whatever.
So the ones we mail will no longer have our fax number and the date on the top of it.
If you use fax maker, they still could be that way.
We don't.
Oh. So, email address, again, multiple, separated by those semicolons or commas. There's your fax number of copies. Okay, now, so this area right here is number 1 on the hierarchy. If this record right here exists, this is what the system uses. Okay, that's it. The next
Creates the money.
The next document settings area that's in play would be by user. So, and there's a limited number of documents here as well, but again, it's similar to the customer side, you can designate by user where these are going to print by user, okay, if you needed to do that. Most companies do not use this area whatsoever. There are a couple that have to have it, but most don't. And if they do have to have it, it's usually like 1 or 2 documents that they have to reroute to whatever the printers are. That's what it is. Okay, so that's number 2 in the list or the hierarchy. Number 3 is the warehouse. Warehouse document settings. Again, same kind of deal. I feel like getting cold again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just let the door locks if you let it shut, so I'm trying to keep it half slivered, but then when everybody comes in and out, it just keeps getting warmer.
And that temperature button, push up on that. Okay,
It
so,
gives you the feeling that you're controlling it, but you don't.
all right, so this is the warehouse document settings area. Again, pretty much just warehouse applicable type documents that you have here. All right. The one area I didn't hit, it's like the customer, would obviously be vendors. So whether it's vendors or customers, that's top dog. So you'd want to put both. It just depends on what the document is. Obviously on the vendor side, there's your 3 choices. Okay, purchase order, a rework order, or vendor quote. Those are the only vendor-specific forms that you can control like this, and that's pretty much the only ones you have anyway. Okay, so that's customer, vendor are number 1, users number 2, warehouse number 3, and then the global document settings area is number 4. All right, and if I go back to the presentation here, we've got them in order, if you will, in this way: customer, user, warehouse, company. That's the order. This is the most broad brush, a little more specific, very explicit. That makes sense? Okay. All right. Automated reporting options. Let's just talk about some things that I've already hit on the fact that, you know, invoices and credits, email or fax, print, customer statements exactly the same way, purchase orders, vendor side stuff, all the same way. Automated shipping acknowledgments. I think that we've got an example of one from Source here. Let's just pull one up so you can kind of see. Again, it's completely customizable, but this would automatically go
Bless you.
out to your customer. Basically show them, it's like basically a packing slip that they get ahead of time, know that the product's already on its way, so they don't have to call you or someone in your office and say,
That's my tracking.
yeah, what's my tracking number, what's the status of my order, you know, is it shipped yet? Well, they'll know it's shipped.
So that, as soon as that is produced within the system, within Acclamare, that is sent to the customer.
Yeah, it's as soon as you post the shipment to create the sales invoice, it sends that acknowledgement.
When do the invoices get sent? Are those immediate as well?
They get sent when you actually run the sales invoice print.
Okay.
And you can time that.
Right now, you cannot time it. Right now, you just fire it off when you want to fire it off. You have to go in, click, 2 clicks, fire it off.
But each invoice? I mean,
No, all of them.
But if somebody
It's just
goes
a
in
big
and
batch.
looks at an invoice, like they wanna print it, and do a print preview, it's gone from the
That's
print
correct.
screen.
That's another reason to
Never
not
email.
allow access to the sales invoice screen like we were talking about yesterday. There's no reason for them to go in there. So, but yeah, I mean, again, because it doesn't know the output method, because you can print preview, and then you can email that, PDF it, you know, you can, from the preview screen itself. So right now, in the system, sales invoice printing, it's one of the reasons we designed the command center the way that it is right now, is so that we can incorporate sales invoice print into one of those scheduled tasks. The way that reporting services is designed, we have to be able to provide a user with credentials to run the report. So we do that automatically through Acclamare, but we can't do it very easily, you know, with a scheduled, like we used to do it with scheduled tasks. You know, we used to have everything in the middle tier. There was no way to really provide a credentialed user to reporting services and say, just schedule a job, a print job. So, but that is actually coming this, probably within the next 2 quarters of this year. It's not gonna be, obviously this build's gonna come out at the end of the month. I think we'll have one more build that'll be out probably late May. And then that next build, that's one of the items that we'll be targeting, is to add that automated, so nobody has to go actually into sales. This is how you do sales invoice printing. There's gonna be some in there, because we confirmed vendor drop ships earlier today. So, I mean, this is what somebody has to do whenever they choose to do it. They go into sales invoice printing, they hit fetch, they hit print. That's it. That's what they do.
So
Okay?
at our counter, we would do that, but you're saying at a customer,
This is just for non-counter invoices. I mean,
Yeah, I
you know,
do
this
that.
isn't really, you know, if it's, you can give an invoice to a customer at the counter if you want to. I mean, it just depends on what your business practice is. So, but this is the
But you're
process.
coming up with a system where it would be automated each day at a certain time, those invoices will
That's
fire
what
out.
will go into scheduled tasks to
Okay.
do, just like
Okay.
we have
There's a lot of
right
those
here.
just do a packing slip.
So if you go into the command center, I'll just show you this again real quick, under scheduled jobs. Right now, and we, at one time, we actually did do the sales invoice printing, if you go back a while back, but we had some issues with how reporting services was interpreting the user, so we pulled it out. So we redesigned it, but these are things that you can schedule as it is. I can schedule a replenishment worksheet, when to go, when I want it to. Sales invoice post is completely schedulable, runs itself at night whenever you want it to run. Fill routine, same type of thing. We'll add another one here that'll just be sales invoice printing, and then that will just be another task that gets loaded into this task scheduler area right here, and then it just runs on its own. So there'll be no intervention required for that whatsoever. These other jobs that you see in my task area here and in the job screen are built in to the application that run your various daily routines that a close a day routine that people have to run manually in other systems. They don't have to do that because this thing does it. It does all of that on its own scheduler. All right, let's go back here to our shipping acknowledgement here for just a second. So again, this can be customized. As soon as the order is confirmed into an invoice, this goes out the door. So it's one of those things again where if you want to do it on a global scale, then go into document settings and set the shipping acknowledgement to email, and it'll do it. If you just want to do it on selective customers, then leave the shipping acknowledgement at the global area. Just leave it set to basically to print, and it won't do anything. It doesn't print them. It's only an email function. If at the global set or the global company-wide area it's not set to email, then it's only going to work off of the customers that you have defined that you want to get that. Okay, that's the only way it'll happen at that point. Okay, so let's go back here to a couple more pieces. We were just talking about these. So again, we've already talked about this stuff. The document settings, if you will, or document control defines the path and the form that's used. We've talked about these. I want to emphasize that the sales invoice register or the receiving worksheet, these things can be edited, modified, how you want to see them, and then put into play. I might have time to do that. We'll just do a quick one. Okay, let's just do a quick, we'll make a quick change. So let's go in here to sales invoice printing. Let's bring these in. Let's highlight that one right there, and let's print preview that. Okay, 156403. There it is. All good. Let's do that to this one.
And that has also now, because you're print previewed it, it's also sent it if it's going email?
Nope. If you print previewed it, then unless I hit that print button, but if I previewed it, I've satisfied the printing requirement. And what I mean by printing requirement is I want to be able to post invoices, and I got several in there. They're only going to show up in here if they've been printed.
Okay.
So those 403, 404, 405, 406 are the ones that I just looked at. From within here, I can hit print preview, and it's going to go out there and run a sales invoice register. Okay, the sales invoice register can be customized to do all kinds of things for you. As you can see here, I've got gross margin showing up in red. I can have cost show up in red and bold as well, and I think that's actually in the form. This form right here, I modified it. I haven't modified the one that's actually in the live environment, but I did modify, oh no I didn't. I modified the one that you can run on demand by a date range. Let's go modify this one.
So did you modify that? Anything under 30% margin was showing up in black?
I modified it. Well, let's go look at the rule, and then we'll change it. That's what we're going to make the change on. So I'm going to go out to the report designer. It's called in 2008 R2. It's called the Business Intelligence Development Studio. Microsoft. It's now called SQL Server Data Tools in 2012 and current versions. But back then we used to call it just BIDS, BIDS, Business Intelligence Development Studio, BIDS. So let's go into the Visual Studio here, and I'm going to go identify the sales invoice register. We'll look at what that font color, how it's tied to what it's tied. So all the reports are here. Again, you can get a book from Barnes & Noble, buy one on Amazon.com. I could go ahead and Google right now, SSRS tutorial, build a report, and I'll get YouTube videos showing me, this is how you build a report. There's just a lot of resource out there available for this environment. But you have to take the time to do it. It's not like you can just, go watch a 30-second video and you're going to be an expert. I mean, I got to watch it, and then I got to get in and use it. All right?
That's why there's the test.
Okay, so I'm coming in here to this particular field. It's gross margin expression. I want to look at the text box. There's rules that are associated with every text box or cell there. I'm going to go to font, and I can see for color it says there's an expression that's in the system. So this report already has an expression associated with it, and I want to see. So what it's doing is, you're right, anything that's over 30 points or under 10 is getting highlighted in red. If it's between 10 and 30 points, it's in black. So if I'm not worried about margins up to 70 points, I'll make this change. Click OK. I'm going to click OK again right here. All right, now I'm going to save. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my register. So the cool part about this environment is I'm making changes in here. Does not affect the live reports. Okay, the live reports are out there. They're a copy of this. In order for me, I make my change, I can test it in here. I can mess around with it in here. I can do all kinds of stuff with it in here. But until I actually deploy the report, it's not in play. So I'll go ahead and deploy this report.
And now you're doing that.
What's that?
How did you do this?
Do what?
Deploy it.
You hit on the deploy button.
There was a
Yeah.
deploy button.
I
Oh.
just right-clicked and clicked on deploy right there.
You got that.
Okay, so it went ahead and deployed the sales invoice register and succeeded. Okay, so now let's go run our sales invoice post. New. Let's preview it. Okay. So that's the concept that I want you to get from this. This was a really pretty quick and simple change. But what I want you to understand from this is that I could have changed anything on that. I could have done anything. So the receiving worksheet, if I want it slightly different, receiving report different, put aways different, anything can be modified, changed. You can test it, look at it, decide what you want to do with it, and then dump it out into live action. All
Is there a
right.
dummies book like our other stuff is for dummies?
Yeah, I think there actually is a SQL Server reporting services for dummies. Bert, do you
Look at
have
me.
that?
Don't look at me. Yes, I actually wrote it.
Excellent.
Bestseller.
It's another revenue stream for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
You
now-
folks at home, don't believe that a bit.
If I wanted this report, the sales report register, okay, I might have a branch manager that wants it, okay? Or an employee, but I don't want them to see my margin, my profit on it. Can I have that as a model for myself, and then I give another one to them? 'Cause they-
So exactly
You
what you
understand
just
what I'm
asked
saying?
for here, you could make the sales invoice register as stripped down plain Jane as you want it to be to catch, the mistakes or errors that you want to catch or review, what have you. But yeah, any report can be set up to run on demand. So over here, of course, it would be in a different location. You'd have your own folder like we already talked about. But you can run the sales invoice register by date as well. So This, this can be under secure in a different folder, and then I just go run it, you know, when I want to run it and look at my report that's got more information on it, more columns, more details. We actually have one company that's got a, and it was really a huge deal for them to make this break. You guys will giggle at this a little bit. Some of you won't, but you should.
As far as Troy's concerned.
There's one company that I know that the business owner of that company, they might generate anywhere from 200 to 300 invoices every day. He will physically look at every single one. Okay? Go through them. Boom, 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 boom.
Now, why shouldn't he?
So we so we created for that particular user a sales invoice audit report that made it easier to pick up the stuff that they
Was the
were
exception.
looking for.
Right.
So instead of having to go through all 200 like this, they could just run a report, and they could even run it without printing it. They could look at it on the screen. You could do either one. But it would actually have the invoice and the information they wanted at the top, and have each item in a little bit easier format for them to see, and actually show price, cost, and margin with the red and bold on line items to stand out to them more readily if that's how they were checking it. So it made it a lot easier for them than going through every invoice. They were able to pick things up that they look for a lot quicker by running the report on demand. Sales invoice audit, you know, and then basically go through it that way.
Now, those could be timed, right? You can time that to go at a given time of day.
Oh, absolutely. When you print the report or generate it, it has a time date stamp on it.
Okay. So I could have that same report, but modified with certain information on it, going to one person, and different information that's allowed to another.
It would be a separate report.
Yes, but
That's
yeah,
what
we
we,
can copy it.
it's basically what we have now going out to the guys
Right,
every night.
right.
Because it's for their each individual territory. It doesn't show the margin. It just shows what their invoices for the day are.
Yep,
And they get one for their quotes and one for their open orders.
absolutely. And you could even set those up on a subscription
Right.
in reporting services, so that those reports go to them and they're ready each morning when they get in. They're in their email,
That's
and
basically
they're
what,
just-
they get it emailed every night.
yeah,
So,
exactly. That's it. And that kind of functionality is embedded in SQL Server reporting services itself.
Doug will do all for us.
Okay, so let's go back here. All right.
You can.
So again, there's a restate for you on the hierarchy. You know, customer, vendor, you can see that. I'm going to go through another piece of this right here that I want you to notice. Okay, if I am emailing a document, you've already seen company, warehouse, user, customer, vendor. We looked at that. We've exhausted it. If you are emailing, then the system, let's say you set up something for global email. Okay, you go to the company-wide document settings, set that form for email. Then the question is, what email address does it use if I don't have an explicit document setting per customer? Then what's it going to use? Well, it depends on what type of form it is. Okay, so if it's a billing document, like an invoice or like a sales order acknowledgement, then the system has kind of a hierarchy for how it looks for what email address to use. If it's a shipping document, like a packing slip or a shipping acknowledgement that we talked about a second ago, then it has a little bit different flow. So let me just explain what they are. So if I set up globally, I want shipping acknowledgements to go to everybody. What the system will do, first thing it does is, as soon as you confirm that sales order into an invoice and says, okay, I need to send a shipping acknowledgement. First thing it'll do is it'll go to the customer that's attached to the order will go to their maintenance record and into their document settings and look. Is there a record for shipping acknowledgement in there? And if there is, what's the email address? If there isn't a record in there, it's not set up because you just did it at the global level, then it's going to look at the contact name tied to the sales order. It's going to see if that contact name in the contact setup has a primary email address. Then if it finds whatever it finds first, it's going to use. First thing it does, customer document control. Next, the customer contact that's associated to the order, they have a primary email address. And it's going to use that. If it doesn't find that, then it's going to look at the customer shipping address. And if it's a secondary shipping location that's all on the order, it's going to look at the default email address that could be provided there. If it isn't a secondary shipping location, they only have one customer record, customer billing address, shipping address. It's going to look at the email address that's there. If it doesn't find one in all of that searching, then it just doesn't send one. And it doesn't throw an error, just doesn't do it. Anytime you have something set up to email, the system is going to go through a logical flow to find an email address. If it never finds one, then it just doesn't do the routine. It doesn't send it.
And if you
Okay.
had to fax, it'd do the same system. If it was set.
Faxing, it doesn't, I shouldn't say it doesn't. Faxing does actually follow the same flow. Kevin's not in here, but it's primarily, I think faxing is only with billing documents right now. I don't think that faxing is with a shipping acknowledgement. I don't think we've tied it into that. I think it's only email right now. Faxing definitely, customer invoice, customer statement, it would definitely go through a hierarchy to find that, but it would be pretty limited. I mean, if it's a statement, it's going to look at the customer document control. If there isn't one in there, then it's going to use the fax number associated to the customer billing address, and then same thing on a statement.
So it would be recommended to clean up contacts before we did a data conversion if we go to Acclamare?
Because you're worried that the email addresses might be out of date.
Ancient, yeah, because some stuff hasn't,
Yeah,
we've got a nice habit of adding people to it, but
yeah.
not
If it doesn't
taking
have an
out.
email address, obviously it doesn't cause any grief because it's just going to
Right,
roll
but
to
if
the
somebody
next.
retired 3 years ago and we got lazy and didn't take them out,
Well, if it gets tied to your, it's only what's specifically the name of the person on the order.
okay, so that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, I mean, it's not looking for any email address in
Okay.
customer contacts. It's only looking for an email for the contact on the order.
I was out for a bit there, but one thing I was curious about is there any way to customize kind of like what we think of as like the stationery or whatever of what goes out on the emails? Because right now we have to, we're used to on our normal emails, out of Outlook, you can have some sort of little, thank you for your
Oh, yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But I haven't figured out where.
You guys know what he's talking about now? Same thing that Bobby, we looked at on master packaging that had the tag that showed user. So like a custom message, but you might want to personalize it a little bit. Yes. So, yeah, I think I logged out of Bobby's site, but it's basically under document control right here, right where it says, we got some examples in here. So this would be an example. So when Doug's Source Company emails a sales order acknowledgement, the body of the email automatically does what you see here. It says attention. That is a tag that tells Acclamare to use the ordered by name. So attention, Joe, John Smith, whatever. Please see the attachment of, the acknowledges our receipt of your order. and then it inserts their PO. That's another tag available to you in there. And then please review and reply, thanks. That's the tag for the username.
Is that rich text or is it just?
What's that?
Is that rich text or is it just?
Is it rich text or HTML?
No, it is not rich text.
So
No.
you can't insert a logo or anything like that in there?
No, but you can talk to Kevin about it, but no, it's not rich, yeah.
Years ago, we had I didn't want to chase around changing PCs from one user to another because Troy left us and Kevin showed up, etc.
Turnover, yeah.
Okay? So all of our PCs, based off of what branch it's in, our 1,000 profit center, they're all 10-something. 2,000 is 20-something.
Gotcha.
So they're not personalized like Troy Jones, okay?
Right.
How would we handle that? Because this is gonna show up 10, 11.
You'd override, you probably wouldn't want to have the automated email. So when you go in to do when you go into a sales order and you want to email an acknowledgement, you have two options. You have one that just says email, and you have one that says email to. If you use email to, it opens an email screen that you can edit. It would bring this message in. You could override, you could type your name over the top of whatever is in there.
Could we have it so that that wouldn't even be there? I'd want
Oh,
to make
yeah,
my name.
absolutely.
In other words, I don't want
Yeah.
that choice.
I mean, you don't have to have, you could just say, thanks Source Associates. You don't have to have that in there.
Okay.
Right
doesn't
now,
have to be
too,
that personalized.
Within each workstation, you can go into the user maintenance and put in an email address for that person that's not a number. So if I send out an invoice from my desk, it's gonna come from me.
Right? Yeah, and so every, and
If I
this,
send out
this
an-
might not completely answer the question, but just so that you know, here's another piece of this. So in your email setup within Acclamare, this field right here that says your name is not required.
No, but that would be a person's name rather than the user station name. You follow?
That can go right on the email that it came from this user. Some companies, one in particular I'm thinking about, they have basically an address that they want the customer to see. Usually your account with most email systems, your account is your email address. So if you populate this, which you'd have to use email, the system will ignore this and use this. These are basically two text fields that the system uses for convenience, but they're not required. So some companies, this says sales at Source Associates or info at joedistributor.com or whatever, and their name can be more.
But if you had Troy's using the station, okay, and the station is called 1030,
right?
but his email address is Troy Jones at so. That would be the thing that would show up?
That's right.
Okay, all right.
That will show right in the sender information associated with the email.
Okay.
So
Troy,
that makes me think though, go ahead, I'll tell you, I'm gonna go off topic, but
where's the list of those codes that you had embedded in that signature? I had never known you could do that.
it's out there on our wiki site.
On the wiki.
It is, yep, one of the few
We're
things,
just
I guess.
like
that's
everybody
out
else,
there.
we're just
Yeah.
typing names and PO numbers in there and our signature name. And
Those tags,
that's all I'm like, okay,
yep.
cool.
You have the quick log out that we can use, quick log out, log back in real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't have it, I blew away my customizations on this main screen, but there is a feature we did put in for counter sale purposes. There are these two features right here. Switch to another user or log out, these two things right here. They basically Well, I'll do it. I'll just give you an example. If I hit log out, are you sure you want to log out? Yep. Okay, so still in. Okay, so now I go out here and I go into sales order entry. So I put in my username and password and I'm in. So it's just that fast. So that the system isn't really logging all the way out. So you have to wait, get your cup of coffee, whatever,
I'll buy you one.
to come back in. All right. So that's just a quick switch away. I'm done on the machine right now. I'm walking away. If I hit I'm out of this session, as soon as somebody comes in to do anything next, doesn't matter what it is, it's going to say, well, you got to log in before you can get into that interface. And now I'm in. All right. I mean, that's just, we designed that for a couple of sites out there with counter sales that wanted to just do that quickly.
More coffee for you.
So
You're gonna have caffeine withdrawal.
switch to another user. Same concept. Joe's already logged in, but I want to switch to me. That's what this is. It just lets me switch quickly to someone else. So that's the feature. I'm trying to think of that. I'm back on what I was thinking of before because I'm like this. I'm weird, but one of the things I was thinking about was George was talking about users that don't really have an identity. There's all this turnover, you guys, I'm probably going to totally expose how stupid I am by saying this, but you guys remember there's like a Tim Allen movie out there where he's like a William Shatner starship captain. I can't remember the name of the show, but anyway, on that show, there's like 4 or 5 of them that are actually in outer space, even though they're actors on Earth. Some far-reaching galaxy has watched their TV program, which is like Star Trek, and thinks they're real people, and that the guy's a real space captain, and so they come kidnap them to save their planet because they're just geniuses when they're in outer space.
Galaxy Quest.
What's that?
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest, that's the name of the show. But there's a character on that is in there, and he's a spare. He doesn't have a name on the show. And so he's with them, and they're calling everybody by name, their character name. This guy doesn't have one, and they're going to attack this planet, and he starts going hysterical because he doesn't have a name. He goes, if you don't have a name, you always get killed. He goes, that's how they wipe us out. It's the characters that really have a name that survive. I'm going to die. He knows he's dead because he's headed down to this planet. He doesn't have a name. Makes me think of all these unidentified users. You're 1,000, you're 1,001.
In
Anyway,
28 years, though, those
funny.
names would have changed.
Funny stuff. No, I understand. I'm with you. You have a lot of turnover. That becomes, you don't want to have, all these users accumulate over time. I got you. All right. I know I'm almost out of time, which is one of the reasons I went there, because it just kills me. That Galaxy Quest is a funny show. All right. I kind of hit on already the default printers. Looking at where that's pretty straightforward in the document settings, the document control areas. I will say this, here's the one thing to just keep in mind that I really like about the interface from this standpoint. If you don't specify a printer, if it just says default, and you never specify one, then it's going to print to whatever that computer's default printer is. So you don't have to set anything special up. It doesn't have to be set up in your server. It's just going to go right to that printer.
Right to 1014.
All right. We kind of already hit this. So making changes to a standard report, we did it. Gave you an example. You can do the exact same thing with any of those customer or vendor forms. So you can make changes to the standard forms, create your own custom. It's really, you saw how quick It was for me to make that one change and deploy it and put it in play. Some other things are more complicated than that, obviously.
How
But,
bad are your standard forms?
What's that?
How bad are your standard forms?
They're not bad at all. I mean,
Do you have much?
how
real
good
es-
are they? I don't know.
Do you have much real estate to work with when you're doing some of this stuff, as far as character limits? You know, from
Within
time to time.
Acclamare?
Yeah, well, from time to time, I've had different there's one of our inside guys in particular who really thinks outside the box quite a bit, and he'll come to me and say, hey, Donna, it would be great if we could get this on such and such. Well, there's only so many characters, and we've already got, you know.
So I think it's a good question. So I think it's a good question because we handle it so well. I'd say that's not so good if, you know, we were restricted, but we're not. So your item number, the way that it's built right now, your item number can be up to 50 characters, okay, which is larger than anybody's that I know. Most of your fields are 50 characters.
Okay.
There are, you know, item description, reference, or certain columns that are up to 255 characters. And then anything that you open in notes is 8,000 characters. So I can honestly say we have not run into situations where there isn't enough room. So like an invoice, like a vendor invoice number, I mean, that thing can be up to 50 characters.
But, you know, and then the specialized messages that, like Bobby has on his things, is there a limit to how much space?
Oh, no, that's in a note field, like the special messages that go
Right.
into an email body.
Yeah.
No restriction on that. I mean, 8,000 characters in that blob. It's kind of a blob, yeah.
Okay.
No, but that's, when we moved away from, you know, basically these prior environments, that restriction completely went away for us. So, and honestly, it didn't need to be as restrictive as it ended up being in Inspire. The only reason it ended up being that restrictive is because they did too much copying a DOS-based system and imposed limits where they really didn't need to impose them.
Okay.
But they didn't know differently.
But DOS was fast.
Yeah. All right. I already went through this last part of the shipping acknowledgement. Talked about how it goes and the information that it can provide. You've got examples on your jump drive. You have all these fields that show you all this information that I went through. I already talked about all of this. Just showing you the different email address locations in the physical interface. That's what you're seeing here on that field. This kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it checks this, or it doesn't send it. That's what that is. So, all right. I think that we are right on time.
Here.
So, feel free to just get ready, I guess you could say, for our last little session here. We'll double check with this group out here, make sure they're all coming in, and we'll wrap up.
Inventory. Who's following that? Is it Grant Howard that you follow, or is it?
It's basically more Schreiber-Vader. It's Graham and Schreiber-Vader combination is what it is. But it's here's what I would call it. Here's what I'd call it, George. I would call it a little bit of Graham, a little bit of Schreiber-Vader, and a lot of you and me. It's distributors saying, we like this works, this makes sense, this doesn't work, this doesn't make sense. That is what it basically boils down to. It's not very rigid. That's kind of
Gordon Graham is still somewhere.
we still have some Graham fundamentals.